Hi. So, for some reason, strange reason, Google's live dashboard is blowing up, but I'll figure something out. I don't know if I'm streaming or not right now. So let's do some checking to see if I'm actually streaming. I'll have to go to Twitter. It's on my old tweets. No, I don't need to tweet. Let me find my old tweets. So let's see if the slides picture. Hey! No, live stream offline? Is it working? That's what I'm showing right now. No. Oh, okay, so live stream on. Had some trouble with the live stream. Okay, so this is it, and it seems as though I'm moving. Yeah, okay, it's just delayed. Yep, okay, I'm gonna assume the live stream is working. It acted up yesterday. I lost a whole day of stuff. So we'll get that out on Twitter, and we'll see if the streaming keeps working. So move all these things off the screen. Okay, so getting some text, but so let's review what we've got going on here. There's two probably about 4 hours of streaming that I did not, because something went wrong with the stream and I didn't get it. So I don't quite know. So to review, we are working on the Sakai project. Yay, the greatest open source learning management system ever. Who has a great mascot called a Sakaiger. A couple of live streams ago, you met my cat, Sophie, who is I named Sakaiger until I was overruled on that. And we are working on JIRA 30,656. And basically the idea is that there are these tools inside Sakai that we can install tools in Sakai. I think that for many years, for well over 2 years, we're the only LMS that had this feature at least certified. So an LTI tool installation is intended to short-circuit the system administrator's task of installing tools from various vendors by setting URLs, keys, and secrets. And so what if this vendor had a whole bunch of tools that they wanted installed all at the same time, and you've got to cut and paste a whole bunch of keys and secrets. So this will pretend that this is my Sugi Learning Object Repository and Learning App Store for my Python class. And so this is still the administrator, and now we're going to go to this registration site, and there's all these protocol things, and this is PHP code now running on my Python for Everybody Sugi site. Press here to register, go like that. And at this point, the registrations happen. There's a web service, and all that data has been sent by external server. And now I'm going to continue to the launch presentation URL. Okay, and so we're back in Sakai now. And now this is where we're going to install all these tools, activate. So these are all the tools that the external site has requested to register. So we're going to activate them. And so now here it is as if we had installed all these tools. That's been working for a long time. The problem is that this JIRA is about. What this JIRA is about is this screen right here. Now, if you look at this on Nightly, you won't see any of this stuff. These tools were installed by the deployment. Oh crap, I got a typo. Sakai is all internationalized, so all these messages are in screens. That'll fix the next compile. And so it used to be that this part wasn't down here, and you could delete this this registration, the results of the registration. But since it's really just a shortcut to installing, it doesn't deleting the code of shortcutting did not delete all these things, right? And even worse, if you put these into sites. Put these into sites. Actually, I don't need my glasses for this. If you need these into sites through the plugin tools mechanism, I'm not sure they might get rid of this distinction. So this is now a user that's adding them to their site. All right, so we'll even simulate another user. Okay, so now down here in this site we have all these LTI tools, and so I'm also going to do another user. And we'll go into user zap site info, manage tools, put a couple into this guy's site, Python data, Python autograder. Okay, so they're here, right? So this is a different user. Okay, so the way it works now is if we go back in here, so these are all these LTI1 tools, and we can see here that these guys are in use in 2 sites. So the way this screen works is if you wipe out one of these tools, they get wiped out. So this is going to be Python data. It says we're also going to wipe this out in 2 sites and two placements. Are you sure? Because those would have been broken anyways. Okay, those would have been broken anyways, and so they're gone. If we go back to Mercury, we'll see that Python data is gone. Python autograder is still there. And if we go over here to this guy, Python data is there, but if we hit refresh, Python data is not there because the backing LTI tool that was there is gone. Now that code was there a long time ago, has been there for a long time. And so the feature request in this is when you delete the record of the insertion, back to administration, when you delete the record of insertion, it doesn't delete all the tools. Again, that's because I looked at this and I'm like, oh, I got another typo in there. Or I fixed that one. Yeah, I fixed that one already. So this wasn't here. And I originally didn't put this here because I thought, oh boy, if this just automatically did this, that would be just too crazy. And I thought it's not that much effort to force the system administrator to go back. Now, other systems have since installed this, and if you click this button, there's not even a list like this. There's not even anything. You get rid of them. They're all gone. So I made it so there's a checkbox, and now if you check this checkbox and you delete them all, you say delete, it's going to delete all the tools and all the links and all the sites. And so now if we go over here, all the tools are gone. And if we go to the sites, they're not here anymore. If we go to this site, we can hit refresh and watch Python Autograder disappear. Okay? So originally, I wanted to just make this a documentation issue. You can see my logic why I didn't want to do this, but Laura says makes sense, but then I'm like, I think Laura really wants me to have the checkboxes, even though she said it, she kind of agreed with me, but I'm not sure she really agreed with me, so I decided to put that stuff up, and so that's all the code. So it's not working, and it's time to check it all in. So let's just take a look at the various things that happened. I'll do a get diff, because one of the things I always do is I always review the heck out of my code to make sure indentations are right. I haven't put any like blanks at the end of lines, etc., but that gives me a chance. So let's see. Okay, so and I also have a print statement. So I put all kind of print statements in something. So when I see this right there, gotta delete these print statements. This is what I love about source code control. Okay, so that is not there. So what I do now is I quit and I start back over. Yeah, okay, so I took some code that was originally in the controller, and it had been written in the thing that supported the delete tool that looped through and did all that stuff, and I decided to move that into the service. So this delete tool and contents is a new thing. So I've added that. So that's what this diff is showing here. Now, there was a bunch of code that I had to end up looking at. That was the part that I didn't get to. A code that was introduced in SAC 30601. And so this had a lot of great features. And I'll show you those features in a second. But it changed how, in this code, it changed how the first parameter, this parameter to these get contents and get DAOs were interpreted. And he was fixing, I think, a SQL injection potential at the same time and allowing much more complex things. I'm not sure I completely agree with the strategy that was taken in that, in this 30601, But what I'm going to do is I fixed it without sort of redoing it. There was just this little mistake, and I fixed that little mistake right here, in that it has to check to see it really is accepting two variations on a syntax for that first parameter, and there was one place that it didn't check for the other variation, and that's exactly what this is doing. And I just copied that from another part of the code for SAC 30601. So, and that was very badly breaking. It was confusing me really badly, and so there we go. That was a big deal. And I put a bunch of unit tests in to make sure. He had a unit test that was wrong, and this was when this unit test passed, it was doing exactly the opposite of what I think it was supposed to do. I think they didn't quite test the other scenarios, and so they thought this was the right thing to do. So I replaced this wrong unit test with a bunch of correct unit tests. So for a while I was just coding on unit tests and saying, you know, if this matters and if my code is going to break, then I better darn well put a unit test in. And I even put in some unit tests here that tell me the kinds of things that I might want to change about that code later. But for now, the unit tests, these assert nulls here, are I wish it wouldn't be null. I wish it wouldn't be null, but I'm okay, because the only thing that matters for me right now is these two here. As long as those are passing, my code will continue to work. So I put in extra ones, and I put in a workaround, and etc., 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 etc. So these are unit tests because I made the change, but then I wanted to, my change, which fixed a bug, broke one unit test, and then I changed the unit test so that the unit test passed, but then I made them more detailed to remind myself when I come back to this code what I really want out of this code. So, oops. So a chunk of my work was unit tests. So those are unit tests. This is the code that I just showed you. This is the code that came from the LTI Admin tool and now is in base LTI service to basically allow a particular tool in a site to just be deleted, and then all vestiges of that tool be deleted as well. All the content items associated with the tool and all the placements associated with the tool. Placement is what those little left navs are called inside Sakai. And so that's this. This is pretty straightforward. I rewrote it because I use break and continue, and the person who wrote it uses the if pattern, which I think, other than tabs or spaces, the use of break and continue is probably the greatest sad debate that we have in programming. That people who are teachers who think break and continue are bad, I just think need to be slapped. I also found just a couple of things where you don't need this in any log because it puts the log message out as well. So the log message automatically gets the class, and I was double putting it out, which is like, well, I might as well fix that while I'm in here. I just heard Earl on email talking to somebody about a patch they had made, and they had done this pattern, and Earl was set, and then I saw that I'd done the pattern. I'm like, I better fix that before Earl yells at me. Let's see. So this get contents DAO, this was what was breaking. This was another problem in the code that was introduced in SAC 30601. The whole idea of SAC 30601, and I'll show you the feature in a second, was to allow the searching of the contact name and the contact email and the URL. And so he put on a whole bunch of joins to add more data to the select that comes out of this, because this ultimately becomes a select down at the bottom. And so he added a bunch of stuff, but the problem was he was adding that as joins, and this was really optional information. And if you put a join that's not a left join, it becomes a where clause if the data happens not to be there. And so the bug turned out to be this here. I was getting no tools, and that part I was streaming, trying to stream, but you didn't see it. And so what happens here is if I go to this code right here, no, this code right here. So if I look at this, the way Jen had written this like 5 years ago, she actually deleted the tool because its job, the job of this routine, is to delete the tool. So what she did was she actually deleted the tool, and then based on the success of the tool deletion, then she did all this cleanup. The problem was, and that worked. That worked before the SAC 30601 commit came in, but then which came in a year ago, August of 2016. So this code here, not that code. Where was that? Where was I? Get contents. Yeah. Oh, I was looking at the diff. Yeah, so this code here is now, this is now a join, left join, and that is now a left join. So this code right here, let me text. Talking about a broken toilet. Also, I'm a plumber in my spare time. Okay, so what happened was because Jen's code, before all these joins were in there, Jen's code deleted the tool item, and this then became a where clause, which none of that would never match anything because the tool was gone, was null. Yeah, we don't do delete cascade, in which case it'd be really easy, except I need to also go delete all those site links which are not part of the same data model. So this was a pretty easy fix, right? I just turned these to left joins. They weren't using these for anything except searching, so the fact that they might be null, these extra properties, like these things that could be selected and searched upon, no biggie. And so it's just fine. So I fixed that. Oh, where's that? I have a system.out.println. Here. We do. Yeah, this is where I finally like, oh wow, I'm taking my search of this old style. The old style search where key equals value, and the new style search has pound signs and all kinds of weird characters in it. So this is where I was, you know, I wrote, I need to come back to this, and so I wrote a JIRA 32704. Because I think that code in 30601 really did this a lot harder than it needed to be, and it's less elegant than it needed to be. So I'm like, I'm not going to decide to rewrite this right now, but I'm going to write myself a little note to the future, right? A little note to the future that I might want to go through and clean up how they did all this stuff. But for now, I'm just going to leave it be. I'm going to leave it be. Okay, so yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll leave it this way, but let's see. This is another routine, contents DAO, and then it had another left join mistake. Oops, shoot. Let's start over. Looking good, looking good, looking good. It doesn't bother me to like do this get diff over and over. Okay, so here we are back to this join stuff. Okay, there I got my print statements. See, my print statements were here. There we go. So this left join was in two functions, so I just changed them, the joins to left joins. Everything is internationalized. That space at the end of the line is on purpose. I don't know if it works or not, but and then what we see here is we're moving into the controller code, LTI Admin tool code, and the first thing we see is the code that I have now moved into the base service, and so this was the code. You can see the code originally. Oops. It does the delete tool first. So as of August of last year, this code stopped working because this worked, but then this did not work because the join would become a where clause, right? And this confused me for a very long time. Now I have both moved this to the end and made it so the joins are not where clauses. I fixed this problem two ways, just because. And then I sort of refactored this and used breaks instead of if. Okay? I just happen to like break and continue. So that's now in the base service and is used several places. I now call that routine from the service, and it returns a list of potential errors because it's a loop and it could have all kinds of things that go wrong. And so I make it so we log all the errors, and then we're going to print out an error note. And if something goes wrong, again, things shouldn't really go wrong here. So this is could be a pretty verbose error note. But you know, I think that the administrator has a right to see all this stuff, so I'm going to dump it all out to them instead of just logging it. I figure if it's rare enough that that's a real log error, it should have. I mean, it's just wiping things out, and it shouldn't. You know, if there's an internal structure that code, yeah. So I print out errors. This is changing now. This is changing the code that actually. Well, let me go ahead and run through another LTI2 installation so I can demonstrate more of these things. See, I wiped it out, and I got to put it back in. Should have check all. Okay, so now we're going to go to the outside site. This LTI2 is very simple. It's a way basically to send a one-time use password just to do this registration. And there we go with the registration request. And now we're going to go back to Sakai. Close the window, and then we're going to activate it. It's the actual installation. So now we have these tools. Let's, for just yucks, install them into a bunch of sites. Let's go in here and put them all in this non-admin site. Kind of amazing. I mean, the LTI2 code in Sakai was really my main effort from 2014 to 2015. Paid for, interestingly, by Blackboard, all this code. It's super complex code, and I had to rewrite it a bunch of times because I was part of the LTI2 working group, and so I would implement it, and then the working group would change things, and I had to re-implement it. So there's a lot of engineering, all paid for by Blackboard, thank heaven. So every time I use this, I'm like, oh, thank God this works, because it's so much code that I wrote. And others now, those who have, we'll just put two of them in this site. Others can now look at that code, because it was super painful, super painful. There's a lot wrong with LTI2. I've tried and tried to get the working group to fix it, but they just don't want to. Okay, so now we have installed tools. We've got lots of them in one site and two in, and so I'm coming back. Here we go. See, this code right here is the code inside LTI Admin tool. Let's find it. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. This one right here. The description tool panel. We're going to grab them for that site, and actually no, that's the LTI tool system. It's not that one. It's this one. There we go. Deployment ID equals. So what we're saying is while we don't have foreign keys fully modeled, we do know which deployment every tool is. So in the tools data, we have this thing called deployment ID, and deployment ID points back to the deployment. So all these, I just did this, all these deployment IDs are the same. And so I say, give me the tools that match deployment ID, and so then that shows me the tools, and that then populates this list. Now, you know what? I'm going to do a test, and when I'm finishing up and doing code review, it's like turtles all the way down, right? It's like Inception. Every time I say to myself, "Oh Lord, I'm going to do a test," because when everything is working, that's when you think of new tests. And so the test that I'm going to think of is I want to have two deployments and make sure when I delete all the tools from one deployment, it doesn't touch the other deployment, because that would be a horrible bug. So second, I've never tested this, so it could break. And then I would be like, damn it, I'm back to the drawing board. Luckily, I have two sources. I have several sources of LTI tools. Let's try my http://localhost. My test harness. Register. This debug stuff only shows up when you're developing on localhost. That's automatic. I'm tired of turning debug on and off, so if you're running localhost, you're going to see the debug all the time. If you're not, it's just not going to show. Okay, so now I have two deployments, and I have some installed tools, and there's this Python Sakai PHP unit test. And so let's just for yucks, let's make sure that we put this into both of our sites, just to make sure we don't end up wiping out things we don't want to wipe out. So this is the one from the other deployment. Continue. 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 And so, look how cute my Sakai unit test has a little ambulance symbol on it, because it's going to save you. And let's put it in here at this site as well. Site info, manage tools, plugin tools. We got to check. We got to put it in the site. We got to make sure. I mean, I'm pretty confident in the code, but I want to make sure that neither the code nor the pages are vanished by this really aggressive delete operation that I put in. Okay, so I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. So I'm going to come back to the code test, where I'm going to see this one's got 2 and that one's got 11 uses. This one's got 2. I'm going to delete this one and make sure those don't go away. Okay, so let's go back to code review of this. Oh, this is the post code in the controller. It should be right down there. Do deploy delete. So this is new code right here. So the way the post works is there's like this post data. So I'm looking at this form data, and I just have a key, delete underscore key in there. And so actually what I did to make sure you're not deleting tools you're not supposed to is that to see which ones are checked, I go through the tools you're allowed to delete, which is this tool, and go through loop through those, and check to see if there is a post parameter that says this is the one I want to delete. That's what this part is. Give me that post parameter, and if that is not on, don't delete it, and then the delete tool and contents, which is the code I already showed you, and then the error code, which is returning errors, right? And then we send back an error message, and then go back to deploy delete. Oh, that might blow up anyway, so I might want to make that the. I probably should make that, because that might not work so well. Right, I want to switch that to be when a delete failure happens. That really needs to go to deploy system, because it might have deleted enough that deploy delete isn't going to work anymore. So I'll send it to deploy system. And so let's restart our code review. We're going to have to recompile all this anyway, so we already saw that stuff, Well, there's a lot of code here, Okay, so now, yeah, that's deploy system. I just made that change this minute. And so this is the template. This is the view, velocity, and it just basically prints out those checkboxes and loops through the map that I passed in. Pass that map in. Right here, past that, there's a map. A list of maps. And so I go through the list of maps and print out the little checkboxes that produce this little bit of output in the template. Oh, and now we're done. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to recompile, and I got to recompile all of it, the services, the everything. So I need to run this, and then I need to restart Sakai. Gotta wait till compile finishes, so I'll stop her. I'm quite confident that I didn't put any errors in, but oh, it's overnight, so I gotta get all the. Gotta go get the snapshots. Gotta go download all the snapshots. Okay. So now I can start it and then tail the log. And so while this is happening, I'm going to do one thing that I'm not sure all my colleagues like Matt and Earl would suggest I do, but I tend at this moment, when I think I'm about ready to send something in, I do a git pull upstream master. And that's because I don't have any things that this depends on. No. Not git pull. Wait a sec. Git pull upstream master. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, upstream. Git pull upstream master. And I just want to make sure, yes, I like that. Git push origin master. I like to know if I've got any conflicts, which is unlikely because no one else is working on that. I have no basic LTI stuff. I just want to check to see if anybody else is messing with this. Yeah, nobody messed it. I know. They tell me not to do that. Okay, are we coming up? We're up. Okay, so so we're up. Let me refresh. Log in. Okay, so let's come back to this. Cancel right out of that. Okay, we are going to delete this guy, and we're going to do our penultimate test, and all those should be gone from all the websites, but these two should stay there. Ready? I'm going to be so sad if this fails. Okay, wipe out. So now I should go to Mercury site, and all those things should be gone except Sakai unit. Sakai unit should actually work, and it does. And I should hit here in this other guy, and I should hit refresh. Those should all be gone. And they are, and Sakai unit, I hope, Sakai unit should work. Okay, so let's do one other test while we're here. Now that I got this set up, I am going to go over here, and I'm going to delete this, and I'm not going to check this checkbox. I'm going to clear my thing. So that is going to delete the deployment, but not the associated tools and site links. One tool with 2 placements and 2 sites. So we're going to do this. This is the old behavior before SAC 3.2. No, not that one. The old behavior before SAC 30656, which is the one I'm working on right now. So the old behavior is, I'm going to press this delete, and those tools are going to still be there, and they're still going to keep working in those sites. Boom. Now, first thing we should see is these are still there, and the content items are still there. Yeah, they're still there. So that's a good sign. That's actually the backing data. The existence of these buttons is not the same as this backing data. The backing data is what makes these buttons work. So I'm going to go to Mercury. And Sakai unit is working, and that's the backing data. I hit refresh here, and Sakai unit, the backing data is there, and it works. So I think after, again, 10 hours probably of coding, a thing that I initially thought was going to take 30 minutes, then I decided to turn into a feature request, and that turned on to about 3 hours. And then once I had that 3 hours into the feature request, I ended up with about 4 more hours of the bugs that I kind of ran into of code that had evolved underneath my feet. And I've got another JIRA to work on as a result of this. And that's okay. I mean, it's a good way for me to have gone over this LTI2 code and this delete code again in anticipation for our Sakai 12 release. And so I'm glad I ran into all that stuff, and I'm glad that I took the time to go Inception style down and down and down and down and write the JIRAs. High quality code is what matters, right? High quality code is what matters, and not breaking stuff. And this is, everyone who thinks that writing an LMS is trivial should just like not. It's not easy. And that's what Sugi is trying to make it so that you can write tools without writing an LMS. But okay, here we go. So now what we're going to do is commit this, really. So this is, we're committing SAC 30656. And so I am going to go here, say get status, make sure I don't have any, to make sure we already did a code review. It's all the stuff in basic LTI, basic LTI. You saw all that code. Get commit, oh no, get checkout -b SAC 30656. So we're on to switching onto a branch. Get commit -a SAC 30656. Add, delete checkboxes to delete deployment. So I'm going to say get push origin. SAC 30656. I sure hope I got that right. Yeah. So now I'm putting it up to my fork. Now I go into my GitHub and turn it into a pull request. Go into my fork of Sakai, and I don't know what I would do if GitHub didn't have this great green button. So now we're inside Sakai. Oops, we're in that pull request. And the integration thing has happened. I'm sure they're going to want a test plan, so I'll probably end up recording a test plan for this. I don't have a good way to, so I'll just record a video test plan. Okay. So I might as well just say get checkout master. And I think that I am now done with SAC 30656. Yay, that's great, YouTube. YouTube seems to be having trouble. My live stream's still working. Yeah, my live stream's still working. YouTube seems a little funky today. YouTube is blowing up. Sakai is more reliable than YouTube today. I'm making a new label. for all of the things that I've live streamed. So you can go find, you can go into JIRA. That'll be sweet. All the ones that I live stream. Actually, what I should do is I should put this in the description. Put this in the description. Whoa, what was that? Wrong thing, copy. Cancel. Pasted way too much in there. Yeah, there we go. That's kind of cool. So now I'll do that. I'll go back and I'll do that to all the other, a few other ones that I've got live streamed here at the in my YouTube channel. Yay, you're doing great, YouTube. And that's the irony. I'm streaming YouTube errors on YouTube streaming, but the stream seems to be working. So I'll go back to all these, the ones that I've been streaming and putting in a playlist. So I'll go put live stream as tags. Okay. I think we're done for now. We just wait and then get some reviews. Oh, I think I'm gonna, let's go and let's go to GitHub. I'll go here, back, and I'm gonna add some reviewers, suggestions. We have bucket, yes. Bucket. There we go. I guess I got oops. Put bucket in twice. How can I fix that? Put bucket out. Well, bucket has to review it twice, I guess. Who else? Oh, let's see. Is Laura in here? No, Laura's not in. Laura's a board member and an active JIRA contributor, but you know she doesn't send code, so she's not in this list. But is Laura watching it? Assume Laura's watching this. Laura's watching. Okay, folks. With that, I will sign off. Cheers.